I've had a lot of videos talking about the boycott mentality. And it's wonderful. It's a huge advantage that veganism is at its core a boycott. That, you know, the impact it has in your daily life is that you refuse to buy some things. But that can lead people into this strangely passive view of what their relationship is to other vegans and what their relationship is to ex-vegans and to the non-vegan society and what have you. And I mean, it's interesting to me because these types of questions about friendship, cooperation, collaboration, they're very different as soon as we even start talking about working with somebody. Is that somebody you would work with, you know? As opposed to this more passive view, and sometimes spiritual view. Sometimes people view veganism spiritualistically. People coming out of the raw, vegan, white people with yoga mats side of things. People coming from the gurus in spandex side of the game. They may have a very, very passive view of it indeed. And then it becomes all about judging whether or not a person has a beautiful soul. One person shut me down for that on Facebook. One of my fellow vegans here on YouTube. Apparently I was not enough of a beautiful soul. It's a damn shame too, because she told me the opposite just a few weeks earlier. I think she actually used those words and called me a beautiful soul. But she later said, like, I feel like talking to you just isn't helping my spiritual progress. I only talk to people where I feel I'm growing as a human being from the conversation. Damn, your loss. Your loss, girl. You know, it's true. You may not expand your mind spiritually, but by talking to me, you can hone your nihilistic, antisocial instincts to a razor-sharp point and become a devastating wit in life. It's true. You may be spiritually bankrupted by hanging out with me. It's true. You know, roll in the mud, you come up dirty. Hang out with nihilists, you come out a bit nihilistic. Anyway, look, I'm going to tell an anecdote which in my mind is directly salient to the point I'm making here. I knew a guy named Walter, and it's going to be really obvious why I'm only using his first name as this video progresses. And Walter, on 2 different occasions in front of me, gave his opinion for why he believed pedophilia was okay. And now, this was in the context of Southeast Asia. I've been living in places like Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and here in Yunnan, where I'm living now. And he basically presented the exact same opinion in 2 very different contexts with me. Now, one, we were alone, face-to-face, talking, and I was shocked, but I could tell he wasn't just saying it to be shocking. He wasn't just trying to be edgy. And I responded, not with anger, but in a very, very methodical, rigorous, logical way. He was actually engaging in what you call an appeal to nature fallacy. He was saying that this kind of behavior was natural and had always existed in society. And I replied without pause, without hesitation, without missing a beat. I said to him, yes, murder also is natural and has always existed in society. Specifically, brothers murdering other brothers. Murder within the family, fratricide, has always existed in every society, and there's very clear reason for it. I mean, there's a very clear anthropological rationale in terms of competition over limited resources. Who is going to inherit the farm from your father? Brother against brother. It's natural. It's existed in every society. It'll always be with us. So does this justify it morally? No, not at all. So I had that kind of response to it. And there was another situation where we went out to dinner, about 4 guys, and the other 2 guys I didn't really know. It was my first time meeting them at that dinner party, if you like. And again, you have to realize, in Southeast Asia, it's not academic. In Southeast Asia, there are a lot of foreign pedophiles. There are a lot of sex tourists who are there for illicit underage sex. Now, I could say more about this. Again, it's something I did do research on, especially when I was in Cambodia. But no, also there was a project in Thailand linked to that. And, you know, anyway, in some tourists' minds, it's exaggerated, but I think many other tourists want to turn a blind eye to it. It is a scary side of sex tourism in Southeast Asia, and, you know, it may weigh heavily in your mind. But I remember when Walter made this same point, he presented his ethical case. One of the guys at the table, who I didn't know, you could see he was ready to jump over the table and punch Walter's face in. He was ready to kill him. And with a topic like that, you never know. You never know who at that table has been a victim. Maybe he was molested as a kid. Maybe his girlfriend was a victim. Maybe his ex-girlfriend. Maybe he knows somebody. Maybe he's just, maybe it's just something he's researched or read about. But why did that one guy at the table get so upset so quick? And a lot of the time with men, there's some forms of violence they exhibit openly, but there are also times when somebody gets real quiet and gets real still, and it's real serious. And if he had jumped the table, I wouldn't have backed up Walter. I would have sat there and watched Walter get his face pounded in for being a jackass with no problem, frankly. Walter, I'm not on your side in this dispute, man. Look, these types of ethical differences, I think the only way to deal with them is through honesty. There are a lot of people who say, oh, well, you ought to have it in you to reach out to and be warm and fuzzy toward non-vegans, reducitarians, and ex-vegans. Ex-vegans being the hardest of all. My reply to that is, why pretend? Because that's all you're talking about is faking it. You're making a moral principle out of faking it. In saying you ought to, you're precisely saying that people ought to do something they don't feel, they don't think, they don't believe. When you do feel that way, I know all kinds of people who eat meat who I have positive emotional relationships with. I don't have positive relationships with them for that reason. They happen to be wonderful people, or people have one or two positive qualities I appreciate with meat. Of course, so I don't have to be coerced into getting along with those people. It's the other 98% we're talking about here, right? And in the case of ex-vegans, let's say somebody was your friend, they were your colleague, and now they're an ex-vegan. The way we evaluate these things, the way we talk about them, I really feel it's so much different when we're not talking about friendship as something static, something passive, something inert, but something active, collaborative, cooperative. If we're talking about working together, that guy, is that the sort of guy I can work with? Is that the sort of guy I would work with? Would I trust him with money? Would I trust him on a project? Just putting it in that framework, in my mind, I think changes things profoundly. Now, a guy like Walter, I think that's a really good example for just that reason. Walter had good qualities and bad. But let me tell you, you're living in Southeast Asia, and you've heard that out of that guy. And he had some anecdotes about it, too. He had an anecdote about how once he checked into a hotel, and the hotel owner had something like an 8-year-old girl there. He didn't know the girl's age, but he was guessing. And the hotel owner, I guess the hotel owner thought that Walter looked like a pedophile. I guess he just came to that, he made that inference. And the hotel owner was offering to set them up. Okay? Now, all kinds of people would react to that in different ways. I think some people would freak out and punch the hotel owner in the face. Like some people would, again, you don't know what demons people are carrying. You don't know what they bring to the table. And at the end of the day, you don't know who just grew up reading too many Batman comic books and decide that this is the day when they're finally going to play Batman. All right? That's a big shadow hanging over Western culture. Yes, it is. Boys, girls of all ages, you know what I'm talking about. Would you work with somebody if you know that maybe, just maybe, they're engaging in that kind of deeply immoral, deeply unsettling activity, even if it's just once in a while? Would you want to work with somebody, make money with somebody, trust somebody, be on a project with somebody, whether a political project, a charity, or a business, if you know those are their values they live by, they bring to the table? Those are the excuses they make for themselves. Those are the excuses they make for others, just on that one isolated ethical issue of drawing the line about underage sex, prostitution, pedophilia, etc. For most of us, it's enough. For most of us, it's enough to cut somebody off and say, I can't work with that guy. Doesn't mean you're going to punch him in the face. Doesn't mean you're going to treat him like crap. Doesn't mean you're going to bring it up every time you see him. Like, oh, there's Walter, that piece of shit. It doesn't mean you're going to mention it every time, but I do think just that one difference. For many people, would mean you draw that line and say, he is no friend of mine, he's no colleague of mine, and if he's on the project, then I'm not. So you got to be real with yourself, and you got to be real with everyone else in your life. If you know that somebody makes excuses for eating veal, if you know that they go home at the end of the day and they make up in their own minds, oh well, what's the harm of buying shrimp, cheese, etc. That's something they're probably doing 3 times a day every day. And there's the act itself, the consequences, the decision, the implication. But above all else, there's the excuse-making activity that you know is going on in their own mind. And with an ex-vegan, you know the excuses are on another level because they already knew and are choosing to forget, choosing to ignore everything that you and I know as vegans.